So I'm so excited to have you as a guest today. I need to give some background for the audience, because usually we always have people very directly related to games, which I feel you somehow are, given your research background. But like when I met you, I was so inspired by all the things you do. So just to give a little bit of an introduction, Jay Lee is, I don't know what you all are. You're wearing so many hats. You are a researcher in the realm of HCI, combining immersive user experience design, what I saw, which I find super inspiring. For instance, you're a writer. You write for ACM Interactions, I think. You are a cake influencer. You have more than 100,000 followers following your cake journey on Instagram. You are a mom, and you I don't know what else. You're doing so many things. I found this so inspiring, and I think we could learn so much from you, from your journey, and how you manage to wear so many hats. Oh, a model. You're of course also a model. This so many things you're doing, but welcome to this podcast. I'm super excited that you take the time doing this, and yeah, maybe you can give us a little bit of an introduction from your perspective. This was my very like overly excited, already a fan of your work perspective.
Thank you, Joey, for inviting me. Very exciting to be here. You invited me to be on your podcast. Of course, I'm not a game developer. I'm even not even a game player, but somehow I take life as a game. So I play different roles in my life as a game. That's why you see, like I really put a lot of hats on myself. It's not about, showing off those hats. It's more about those things, keep me motivated and explore the width of the life, width and depth, because me, it's like the length of the life is uncertain, but at least I can expand my life just to explore different areas of my interest.
This is a nice, very interesting way to see this. That also you take life as sort of a playful experience. So, how was your journey? Where are you coming from? How did it evolve to become the researcher, but also the influencer and role model you are now? What was a little bit your journey, your path?
It's like I'm never a long-term planner. I just sometimes things popping up in my mind. I really wanted to do something, and I just do it. And also, it's with all of luck, I somehow arrived as myself today. So I'm originally Chinese. So I was born and grew up in China, in Chengdu. So that's a city where it's famous for the panda, if nobody knows. And I'm really proud of my hometown, the home city. So I always say, okay, Switzerland is beautiful, but my home province, that area, is like a larger scale Switzerland. So if you can imagine the landscape there, so it's very beautiful. And I came to Europe, so Netherlands, to do my master's in 2009. So, and I have a design background, I started industrial design for my undergraduate, and also during my master thesis, I still study, strategic product design. That was the master's program is called. And later I did an internship at Philips Research. That's where, I started to realize, okay, I can become a researcher. So the project I did at Philips was very interesting, because like girls were all like beautiful clothes, and they hired me as an intern just to study, all kinds of clothing fabrics. And so I remember I collected like 400 pieces of fabric from like this like wholesale market in China. I just collect all the samples, and I found a fabric expert to help me, basically teach me what they are and help me sort them out into like maybe 20 categories. Then we just place those fabrics under the retail lighting I was working on. I designed different light conditions to make those fabrics looks either expensive, glittery, or cheap. Just to explore the vocabulary, how people would describe look of the fabrics under different retail lighting I was designing. And also, that's I didn't know about anything about HCI at that moment. So I didn't know what was human-computer interaction research, but somehow, the way how I was taught to do research at Philips fall into the field of human-computer interaction. I continued my PhD with Professor Halb de Rieder, and he has a background in experimental psychology. And just together with him and under, the Faculty of Design, and I also collaborated closely with computer scientists during my PhD. So somehow it paved the road for me to become an HCI researcher. And for my PhD, I researched on crowd experience. So basically, it's a fun project. Like I went to so many festivals, with I'm not a festival person, but I went to all those festivals just to do observations, to measure people's behavior, and just to interview their experience and to help organizers to do crowd management. So that was my PhD thesis.
Oh, this is exciting. I just need to jump in. So maybe the term human-computer interaction for this podcast is not so known because we most of the time talk about games research, but games research and human-computer interaction research are very closely related, and like there are so many overlaps. And just for the context, like HCI, human-computer interaction, is so fascinating because, as you mentioned, so many disciplines and people with diverse backgrounds would work and research together, whether it's people coming from the design perspective, from the psychology perspective, or myself coming from the computer science perspective. That's why HCI and games research have so many things of common. Of course, games research is a lot of HCI research as well. I did found projects in your past which I find highly related also to games research, which are in the realm of virtual reality environments and immersive worlds. And I even found a project on ASMR. So what are your recent projects you're most excited about?
My most recently, I work a lot on commercial projects because I switched to industry 3 years ago. But before I switched, I was actually quite proud of one of my CHI papers. I don't know if the audience know about CHI. It's just the biggest conference in the field of human-computer interaction. And that study was about cake VR. So how you and me and my client, we meet in virtual reality and we co-create their ideal cake together. And this happened during COVID. So this whole motivation about running this study, and it's also playful, because at that time I was a postdoc at the Computer Science Institute. And I just told my professor, Pablo Cesar, I said, I want to do something about cake. This kind of research doesn't feel into the ideal like output for the group. It's a computer science institute. You have to do something more serious. But somehow he supported me because this kind of study also don't really fall fitting to the requirements of the EU project I was part of. Somehow he still support me. So if you want to do it, you just do it. And so then I collaborated with my student Yanni Mei, and she is really this brain and the developer behind the whole work. But it was really fun projects. We just really started by interviewing bakeries and cake artists to find their pain points about negotiating a wedding cake, which people pay 2,000 euros for that, then they have a lot of requirements. And during COVID, basically this face-to-face communication gets cut off, and they still needed to negotiate the wedding cake. And how can they do that? How can you really visualize the size of the cake and the decoration of the cake in front of them, so they can really just directly see, oh, that's approximately the cake I'm going to get at our wedding. So that was just the whole motivation behind, and we just turned it into kind of a gamify the whole process. Then we did the prototype. We invited both cake artists, so the pastry chefs, and the person who wanted to order cakes from the pastry chefs to test the prototype. So that was the Kai paper about, and it was accepted by Kai. So in the end, it's a good output.
And I think this brings us to like the most obvious topic. I mean, you are known as the cake researcher on Instagram and on social media. People find you as cake researcher. You have like thousands, 100,000 of followers following your cake journey. How's that? How did that escalate so quickly?
Yeah, it's also escalated during COVID. I think my baking career is the longest among all my other careers. I started to bake 18 years ago, so from 2007. It was just, in China, oven is not a must-have equipment in your kitchen because we steam, we stir-fry a lot of things. And oven, the home where I grew up, we never had an oven. But somehow I just got fascinated by cheesecake in my early 20s. I just tried to figure out a way to recreate all them at home. I even tried to make the cream cheese myself because I couldn't easily find it in China. And that's where all these experiments in kitchen happened. And then after I came here, it's also something like worth mentioning because I talked to a close friend of mine, so Professor Elizabeth Churchill. She was surprised when I told her the reason why I started the cake researcher as a business. Because, as a foreigner, like a Chinese studying and living in Europe, I often have this issue of visa. So before I got my permanent residence, like I basically cannot have a gap in between my two jobs. So they only give me like 28 days. So if your previous contract ended, you have to find another contract immediately after.
Which is terrible in academia. This is academic life for everyone who is listening is so fractured and scattered. It's very difficult to get like full-time forever positions. Just as a side note, this is so smart.
Yeah, so then it just got worried every half a year. Oh, my postdoc contract has to be renewed. If I don't renew it in time, I need to leave this country. So you constantly have this worry behind you while you have a lot of workload. So I just say, okay, I have another skill. And I did a little research to say, okay, I sponsor myself by starting a business. Actually, I can, but they have like a minimal income requirement. So with my cake business, I wouldn't say easily meet that requirement, but it's possible. And so that's how I started my cake researcher business. And also my family, sponsored me to get this cake studio. So it's like they really helped me got this property, so where I can really do this business.
But how do you manage to have everyone, please take a look at your Instagram page or like what other social media pages should we talk about? There are some other ones which you're really present on, right?
It's a more for Chinese audience. It's called Red.
And it's amazing. Like you make so complicated, beautiful cakes. And this needs to. So my skills are muffins. This is my level of skills. So I don't know how long it would take to make such a cake. I suppose hours and up to days. How do you manage this next to your actual researcher career and your normal job, basically, to have a full-time other commitment and in such a professional way?
It's for me, I think people all have their hobbies. You find a way to do sports, and people always, if you want to do something, if you want to do meditation, you always find time for yourself. It's the same for me. So cake is my hobby. But there was a very, very crazy period. So during my postdoc, I live in Delft, and my work is in Amsterdam Science Park. So door-to-door commute, one way is 2 hours. I used to just commute 4 hours per day and 4 days per week. And during that period, I still open my cafe, so where I'm sitting now, every Saturday. So there was like 1.5 year I lived like this. So I worked 5 days per week, so 4 days in Amsterdam, 1 day working from home or in Delft. I baked, Friday until late night, and Saturday I opened my cafe. So it was crazy, but somehow I needed to demonstrate I have this business. I'm not just doing morning laundry, I'm doing really, really business. So just to demonstrate I have income and prove to the tax office. But just after 1.5 year, I just reached the limit, like my physical limit. I started to feel like physically unwell because of sleep. Then COVID came. So then it was really a good excuse for me. COVID did a lot of bad things to the society, to us, but the period was a moment where I can really close my shop, because I always have this obligation, commitment, once I opened it as a cafe, I have to open it as promised. COVID gave me the good excuse, say, okay, I need to close it down. And that was a period, I stopped commuting 4 hours per week. Then I have a extra 4 hours per day just to after work, just to practicing, like exploring all kind of ingredients, techniques. I'm all self-taught, but of course I watched a lot of tutorials, books. I chatted with people. So then I just find back this extra time during these 2-3 years of COVID, just to that's where actually my followers start to gain from maybe 1,000 to like 100,000. That was it's only between these 2-3 years.
Amazing. And like when was the time when you figured that you can actually become an influencer with that? I don't know if you see yourself as an influencer. This is like always an interesting discussion. From the outside perspective, I would definitely would see you as an influencer, especially like with this kind of content you produce, the sort of engagement you have on the platform. It's not like you have 100,000 followers, but it's very obvious that people are excited about what you're doing. So what was that time? Because this is not an easy path to get to 100,000 followers or more. So what was this time, this journey for you when you actually sort of saw, wow, what you're doing is working? And what was it? What was working for you so well?
It's like I never really aiming for like become a big account of Instagram account. I had like a few hundred followers for like 6-7 years, and I really keep it as just a kind of a notebook, a portfolio for my own cakes, and I didn't mean to get really big. There was like a turning point. I remember there was a period I got scared because just the follower increasing to so quickly, and you receive so many messages, every day a few thousand increasing. So what happened? That was but of course you got used to it. After a while, you just started to say, okay, I have to ignore the messages because I cannot reply. But I think also another turning point is like around 2021. So my postdoc contract reached the 4-year limit. Like I must leave. Even the lab, my professor, he really would like me to stay, but it was just unfortunate I cannot. So upon my leaving, the lab gave me a gift set. Then that was actually a influencer setup. So they just give me this ring light, the camera holder, just basically set up for me. I'm still using it to record my Instagram videos. That was a gift from my previous lab. So that's where, so you already have the tool set up at your home. You say, okay, I will just put my camera there while I was baking. That was how everything started. And I'm not a pro in video editing or recording. I only use my phone, People also give me advice. You need to do multiple angles, but I just don't have the energy to to invest my time more to editing the videos. I just keep it as like somehow just record, your kitchen life, and you pick some nice clips and to show it on Instagram.
How much time would you invest in the videos, or if you would say per day, on the social media life?
Social media is like I'm really a content creator, but I don't consume that much. That's I guess you have the same. I post, but I don't check. I think that's also a way to cut yourself a bit, from the social media life. And I also set very strict schedule for me to spend on baking. So if people know me well, my clients know me well, they know I only bake Monday evening instead of Saturday afternoon. So outside of this time, unless that week I decide, okay, I will take extra evening to bake. Usually that's a fixed time where I bake, because I still need to spend time with my daughter. I need to send her to her evening class, So I just need to really schedule myself. So, and I also need some nights just to rest. So yeah, I just
this is like the perfect like bridge to the next, like to this topic. I would be super interested to learn more about your schedule, how you make those things work, if you have specific routines, if you have like a dedicated schedule, because again, your many hats, your many like responsibilities, also especially as a mom and as a researcher and as a cake influencer, and you're also writing. This is also something which I find, all of those things are very different. Some of them are like, I guess, really daily fixed tasks. Some of them require a lot of spontaneous creativity, I suppose, like the writing, or probably also like the cake making or the content creation. So what are the ways how you work, and what works for you, especially also given what you mentioned, that it feels like you almost burned out before COVID. So are there ways, what is different now?
What I think now, I'm a very flexible person. So I sound like a person who is a pro in time management. Once my mom, she knows me well, and she joked with me, said, "You're not time management. You're just doing crisis management." Yeah, sometimes it can be like this, but I'm very flexible. So now I just really prioritize, my rest. So I try to sleep. So people always thought a person like me must only sleep 4 hours, 5 hours per day. I think I also discussed this briefly with Professor Albrecht. I asked him, how many hours do you sleep? Because he's also like seems doing a lot of things, crazily tight deadlines. Yeah, I agree. I do sleep enough, at least 7-8 hours. Just to keep my energy high. And I'm not like a really morning person. I usually, if I don't need to put my daughter to school, and I usually get up after 8:30 or something. So I try to sleep enough. But I also noticed once, I guess we're somehow the same, because when I really work, it's really efficient. Like I don't really checking my phone. I just try to push myself into this 2-3 hours of a deep work without checking anything, not answering messages, not answering emails. But I just noticed, if I just only keep 2-3 hours of a super deep work, if I'm not really facing tight deadlines, that's already, you can catch up a lot of things in your life. And for baking, I also told you I only spent this period of time. But when I really said I'm going to bake on Monday evening, that means I bake until midnight. It's just a way, I just to express myself, to get my mind relaxed. I got physically tired, but it's also nice, for me just to be physically tired and to sleep well.
Do you have any other hobbies or things which sort of act as a counterbalance to all your activities? I mean, you already mentioned like the idea of meditation. Is this something which you do, for instance, or do you have any other hobbies or things you do?
Meditation I usually do actually before sleep. I have a app. It's called Headspace.
I have
I'm
the
using.
same, but I do it in the morning.
I do it in the night. I feel it's easier for me to get away from my phone, so I don't check my phone. I just listen, just do 20 minutes before I go to bed. So I do that. So I at beginning I thought I only do it when I don't feel well, but now I just get used to do it even I feel well. It's just get myself into a moment of peace and just to reflect on my own body. And another, I don't really spend time going out to do sports. So I'm not very like outdoor doing skiing, this kind of person. But I do have like a treadmill at home. It's the running machine. It's where, I can just, at any time, I can jump on it. I can watch an episode while doing some like running with to keep my energy level higher. Sometimes I do it before dinner, and 15 20 minutes, or if I'm in good condition I do more than half an hour, but it's mostly just 20 minutes workout. Sweat a bit.
Ah, super. Yeah, like if you have this flexible, I would have like one of those rowing machines, but like just setting it up is a little bit cumbersome. And this is like everything which hinders the spontaneous activities is difficult.
It's very happy to move around.
Yeah. The one thing I find very exciting, we had a little bit of a talk about this because you name yourself cake researcher. Do you also bridge the topic about science and academia or research and talk about sometimes in your cake account, or is this something which you really try to separate?
No, I don't really try to separate it. I still sometimes post, showing off my ACM interactions articles on my cake research account. So I just take it as my personal space. I don't see it as like a commercial space. I don't like to do advertisement on my account because I take it as those things. I don't want to ads to pollute my content. But that's just a space. I share whatever I want. I share whatever I feel, fit into my account. So it's not limited just to cakes.
And how do you feel like, because I find it very exciting that you use this platform and this reach you have to also talk a little bit about science, because I don't know how is it like where you're living right now in Austria. We do have a lot of issues that people are very frustrated about science, are very concerned, don't have a lot of trust in science. So I feel like every opportunity that you reach a lot of people, even like with small hints that science, how to explain science is helpful. What are your take on that?
Oh, I don't know. People have this negative opinion towards science, because for me, I'm following Huberman Lab. I'm basically listening to every single podcast he produced. So I still see like as many people are interested in science, but I think also people interested in how science can make their life better. So they don't care about science which far away from their life. That's my observation of Huberman Lab. When I was invited by Professor Elizabeth Churchill to be writing the column for ACM Interactions, I think that was the idea, just to how can I communicate the science in a very interesting way, just to reach a broader audience. So I can imagine if I translate this ASMR article to Chinese, and my mom, she can easily read and understand it. So that was my goal when I'm writing these articles.
How does the writing process work for you? Because this itself is something which many people like really have challenges and struggle with. And you write at one article every couple of months, right?
not demanding at all. So we have like a few columnists serving at ACM Interactions. We take turns. So this magazine only have 6 issues per year. So I will take care of 3 issues. And another columnist, he or she will take care of another 3 issues. So only 3 articles per year. So I have plenty of time to gather materials and finding an interesting topic.
And are there things which help you to get the writing done? Because this is also something which, like I also struggle with this empty sheet of paper and this motivation to actually start writing. And I personally always need like very clear deadlines. This is something which certainly all of a sudden pushes my creativity. But are there any tips you have for writing, for instance?
For writing, it's like I always keep my conversation going with inspirational people in my life. I have really like this weekly or even bi-weekly meeting with top researchers in my field, just as a friend chat, usually during weekend. Like one example is Professor Hiroshi Ishii, and he's really like a let's say he's really like one of the visionary, I would say. And he's I started to chat with him maybe 1.5 years ago. So we just have this bi-weekly chat. Because for him, I'm just a younger generation. I can also bring nice input to his work, and he can also give me feedback on my thought process. So I just often discuss with him, and I also sometimes record, of course, with his permission, just our conversations. Actually, my next ACM interaction article will be just a conversation with Professor Hiroshi on this eternal life, tele-absence topic. So it's always like this. So I just try to record when I think Professor Albrecht Schmidt, he also shared during the winter school that he recorded his thoughts while he was driving, right? That's a really good way. I also start to do that when I have some ideas. Just I actually ask Siri to record my thoughts. I just talking while he records it, and later I can turn it into transcripts, and those things become materials of my writing.
This is very smart. This is especially like if you're commuting a lot. I think we always need to be a little bit creative. What tools are there to help us to sort of extend our brain and our mind, right?
So for me, it's like talking to people, and if they allow you to record, and record the conversation if you find it's really inspiring, that somehow will become your writing resources. I think I'm also planning my next article also to be more like a conversation with a scientist.
Oh, super. I am very far away for knowing a lot about cakes in general. I am just like so inspired by all the cakes I saw on your page. There's very creative, very often very fun, it feels like very personal. Where do you take your inspiration from? Maybe not only for the cakes, but maybe in general in life, because I think everything you're doing and you're describing, there are so many things where we need to think creatively and make our mind go somewhere eventually. Do you have things that are inspiring for you, whether for the cakes or for something else?
Yeah, I think I do get a lot of inspirations actually from different domains. I still think one of the main inspiration source is from the client, and my close clients, they know me. I don't like to copy a cake, so they never really give me a photo just to say I want exact the same cake as shown in the photo. It doesn't work with me. So usually my client always have like ideas like I want to have this cake with this color scheme. Like there was one of my clients, her baby boy was turning 1 year old. It's a boy, she wants to have a certain like a forest, but kind of grayish green, like a brown, this kind of color scheme. So he just she told me that's color she wanted, and the baby boy was born in the rabbit year, so she somehow wanted to have a rabbit on the cake. She just leave the creative space to me to improvise. So in the end, I just made a windmill, using sugar, and I made a little rabbit. I created like a forest garden with the color she prefer. Then in the end, I enjoyed a lot making this cake. Even I spent, I think, 10 hours on that. So it's totally, if you're calculating the hourly rate, it's totally not well paid. But I really enjoyed the whole process. Of course, she loved the cake so much. I think she took she said 2 hours photos before they start to cut it. So that was, I still feel like it's more like a co-creation. Like we take it as a creation, but don't limit myself by some other people's work already.
This is a nice, like many things you were mentioning were about this process of co-design, co-creation. This is like a concept we teach a lot or hear a lot, and especially in UX design in general. But it feels like you're really living it in all your processes, like whether it's writing or the creation of the cakes, but also what you mentioned about your research. I find this very inspiring. Are there I have to ask, like, is this the path you want to continue, like having like all those different things working for you? Or do you feel at some point you don't want to be a researcher anymore, you want to go all in with the cakes? Or like, is this something which you always want to have as a coexistence?
It's like funny because we have a shared friend, Manuel. I mentioned him here because I have a nickname at his side. He called me an octopus. It's like I have 8 arms and each arm wants to dip into one area. So I think I will continue to do like this because I cannot imagine me giving up on cake. I can make a fewer if I'm traveling a lot, if I'm really busy with my, daily work, but I cannot imagine giving up on that. And also even I switched to industry work. I still try to keep my publication, my really, really research work going on by supervising PhD students. So I still keep on my publication going. It's not a lot. I'm not publishing 10 papers a year, but 1-2 high quality papers, and which I supervised, and I'm quite proud of keep the research work going.
What is the what do you think in terms of the influencer life? Is this something which is affecting you? It does not seem like that because you mentioned you get a lot of messages, but you just cannot read them. But what I experienced in the past, there are sometimes messages that become very loud. I'm not sure if you also get negative messages. If this is a topic where people would tell you how much they hate your cake or your research. This is like, but like for instance, in my realm, in the game room realm, some voices are also not so positive. Is like, how do you cope with that?
I think on Instagram, I set up a filter. I think like I block some keywords already before they reach to me. So that's kind of a self-protection. So on Instagram, I didn't really receive a lot of negative things, maybe just because of the filter. But I of course I actually last year I experienced a tremendous internet violence. I talked this in one of the lectures when Professor Albert Smith he invited me to give a talk at his lecture about social media usage. That's where I shared this experience. So I didn't really share it widely. Yeah, it's just came out of the hate, the hate on internet. Usually they're attacking me as a female, being so skinny, just spreading unhealthy image. But they just, I also just felt, it's just out of no reason, like skinny, just my my body type. It doesn't mean I'm unhealthy. I just feel like I don't need to explain. But this is one type of haters. And another type of hater, they just think you fake your way through. So the things you achieved so far are fake. You just used some, improper manner to achieve the things. Yeah, but those are not, things are untrue. They shouldn't impact you. But of course, there had been a period where I have to turn off the comments on my social media just to protect myself, to silence my social media platform. That was his Chinese platform.
Was there a specific starting point on that? A specific post or post you made which was triggering this?
It was one of my comments. I tried to stand up to protect another baker because I think she made a cake and the client was unhappy, and so this person just publicly making her really look really bad on social media. So I just commented underneath just to support this baker, just say, I can see from a professional angle, she tried her best. She refunded you. She apologized. And she promised she will do it next time. But what do you want from her? And she's like a single mom, why we cannot support her more than just criticizing her to this level. And so then that was a trigger point. Then these people just they see I'm a big account, social media. Suddenly become the target.
And did you have any strategies? What did you learn out of that? How did you stop this in the end?
In the end, it's just I just stopped engaging. I turned off all the comments. So I turned off the private channel where they can send me messages. It just stopped engage, and it will fade in 2 weeks because people's attention will switch to other things. But it was really painful because you start to receive messages that are cursing your child. It's not really nice. It's getting very personal. I also understand people who are commenting on this. They're not really rational. I studied crowd psychology during my PhD, so I understand people just those internet things can be so contagious. They follow the crowd. They feel anonymized by saying things because their real identity is not exposed. So we just as people who are really well on social media, we just shouldn't take it too seriously, too personally.
This is, I think, the right strategy. So especially like if you start engaging or trying to be like the one trying to explain things, or it's just making it worse. So like silencing it, I think, is a very smart move there. And also like standing up for someone else, I find very important. Thanks for sharing this. This is, I didn't know that. Maybe another aspect of your life is the modeling. This is also something which is like super different. How so? How did that start?
I think I during my undergraduate I was in China, so I participated some like modeling this kind of competition when I was late teenager years. So I got quite far in those competition. I signed to an agency company, and I did a few years like really professional modeling for runways and for a lot of wedding dress shows. So that was until 21. So I didn't do it after I came to Europe. Only in the past few years, when I have friends starting their photographer studio, they start to recruit me to be the model for their studio so they can get a portfolio to showcase. And now I just have like a couple of photographers like that I do occasionally, like maybe 5-6 times a year, just photo shooting for them.
Amazing. One other aspect which you already mentioned, which I just have to like ask about. you already mentioned that sometimes it's a little bit difficult to be a woman in the spaces, in those spaces, whether it's on the internet, maybe also in academia, in science. Do you have, like, in general, tips for people, or for maybe also young girls who want to get into science, or doing the things you do?
I think that's what I talked with my colleague, and also she's going to be my business partner because we are starting a nonprofit research organization together, and she was my previous boss as well, so we are good friends. One thing I learned from her, she's really an inspiring female leader, in a commercial science context. She said, girls, you always put a discount, to what you truly desire. Why you need to put a discount? If I want to have this salary, I just tell I want. I can even ask 20% more, but why you put the 20% discount on the thing you want? So that's also one of my tips. When you really want it, I want 100,000 salary. Just don't say, okay, 80,000 also works fine. Just don't step back, just to push it forward. So I got a lot of support when I was working with Dr. Alexandra Dilling. So she's this business partner. She actually encouraged me. She even texted me, said, I'm so happy you asked for it. After a few rounds of this kind of supporting and positive feedback, it started, oh, actually I can ask for it, and it's not, don't need permission to pursue the things I truly want. That's something I really want to tell girls. But for joining science, I still don't see myself as scientist. It's like it's just follow your heart. I would say I never really imagined I would be got a PhD. I never imagined I can reach so far in academia. So never, just don't need to limit yourself thinking, oh, I'm a girl. I just I don't want to become a PhD, because I don't know, even in Asia it's getting better, this concept, because before we just joke, they said we have three genders. We have female, we have male, and we have PhD female. That was a joke back then in China. So they just categorize you as like another species. But I just don't. I want girl just to don't limit yourself to certain boundaries. I cannot become this. I cannot become that. Just do the things you want to do and ask for the things you deserve.
Thanks so much for sharing this. In general, like, I'm always super excited also about other sources which sort of shaped you. Are there specific books or movies or TV shows, games probably not, but maybe, but things in your past which sort of shaped you, which inspired you, which you would recommend other people to also read or watch, or maybe music? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a heavy book reader, but I do read a few books a year, so it's not not reading a few books per month. But I think when I read recently, which book? I was on a book. I'm still on this book called Unbounded. And it's just teaching basically females, just to speak out, to gain your energy, just to. It's really like, I won't say much about the book, but it's called Unbounded. Then so I recommend girls just to check this book, and learn from that. They give you a lot of exercise, just to how to gain your power to thrive in this society. And other books, I find one book is particularly helpful to me. It's called Deep Work.
You mentioned deep work, that you're using those 2-hour frames. I immediately thought of Call Newport, right?
Yeah. So I read that book maybe in my mid-20s. So then that's where I started to have this, actually push myself to have this habit to focus on one thing, or just go into this flow, deep work. It's not necessary to be a work on my computer. It can also be just 3 hours deep working on my cakes. But I just felt if I do this constantly, just my skills to concentrate gets really, really improved.
Also, absolutely agree. One of my favorite books, and I think we need to challenge ourselves to learn how to concentrate sometimes. I mean, you can start off probably with those 20-minute slots from the tomato timer, like from the Pomodoro technique, but in the end, you can really if you have those 2 hours, this is so powerful. But it needs a little bit of a training, and yeah. But I fully on the same page. Yeah, and last but not least, again, I'm so little experienced with the cakes, but what was your favorite cake baking experience? What is your favorite cake? Tell us more about cake making. I would love to just explore this topic a little bit, because I'm so blank here, and I feel you can teach us here a lot.
For me, it's like my cakes is not standard school taught. So I have some very surprising recipes when people really get professionally trained as pastry chef, because I wanted to hire some people to work for me, but when they saw my techniques, the hell is it? It's very not very standard, but I do enjoy this. Sometimes when people ask me what's the recipe of your pistachio cream, I said I don't know. I just see the color and I taste it. I put a pinch of salt. If that jar of pistachio paste is not the ones I want, I usually just mix the flavors on myself. But in the end, of course, I know certain proportions, like this cannot be too much and the liquid cannot be too much, otherwise it won't form a cream. I know this kind of basic knowledge after millions of times of trial, not really much error, just trial. That was my creating process. And I personally I really like two flavors of my cake. I'm in general very tired of my own cake. I do eat other people's cake, but for my own cake, I'm really tired. But I still like the pistachio flavor and the durian flavor. So durian is a very particular fruit. Like people either hate it or love it. So it can be really smelly. And I once did a durian cake party at my shop, and I attracted mostly Westerners, just to come to try the durian cake, and then they kind of accept it. I like it. I think majority of people who came to the party, they love it. Yeah, it's just my experiments. Here's just my lab, trying different kind of ingredients. And also when I don't personally like buttercream a lot, then I developed the recipe just mainly use white bean paste without adding butter, just to use that to do all this kind of beautiful flowers. Then it's healthy to eat. You don't need to put a whole piece of butter into your mouth. Instead, it's white beans. So then I just still constantly experimenting new ingredients.
I love this concept that you're really living this cake baking lab, basically, with trial and error, with short small studies, also doing the co-design. I just love how you run your bakery or your baking cafe as a cake lab. I love this concept.
Yes, it is a lab, and I'm the researcher.
Thank you so much. With that, thank you so much for taking the time to explore those topics with us. Has been super inspiring, and again, I find it so interesting, so important that people like you share how wearing those many hats can work without again running into this burnout. Because I think we're always a little bit closer to that point. If there's many things going on at the same time. Is there anything else you want to share where you feel you?
I felt I recently also had a not very good experience, in a not very good working environment. I felt like a work itself, like the cakes. I spent 10 hours on my cakes. It doesn't burn me out. I would feel tired, but never really impact me mentally. So I still feel like burning out is more about us losing balance, like psychologically. You have to always toxic working environment. That's something that can actually burn us out, not work itself.
And how could we cope with that?
Two more cakes. Yeah, it's really just do something that can free your mind, and you don't need to take work and the work relationship. I mean, the not good ones. Of course, we have amazing colleagues, but they are always also not so amazing work conditions. Just don't take it personally and to do other things you like to get those things off your mind. In the end, nothing. I think only life matters, and the rest is just experience.
In case someone like me would go out and try to make one cake, is there any rather simple recipe I could try out, or do you have recipes which you share which are doable?
I shared one cake roll recipe just on top of my Instagram because actually I started to get to be known to people because of my cake rolls, and I share that complete recipe. I do have friends that they trying to recreate, and it worked well. If I have a chance to visit you at your home, we can always make it together. Or if you come to Netherlands, we can do it together. It's not difficult.
This would be fun. This would be really, really, really fun. I would love that. So thank you so much, Jay, for your time and for your insights and for all the inspiration. When people are listening or watching this now, where can they follow your work? Where can they learn more about the cakes and research about you? What should the listener do now?
I think on Instagram I'm called Cake Researcher. So cake_researcher, or small letters. And if it's I have another social media platform. It's called Red. I think this media is this app also opens now for Europeans and people from States, so you can go there. But the community is still heavily Chinese. But I basically share similar things on two platforms. If you want to follow my research, you can find me. But my name is too difficult to be distinguished because there are so many Jaylees worldwide. But you can find maybe Jaylee Research, HCI researcher. Then you can find me on Google and my webpage. And the Google Scholar, just to follow my research work and ACM interaction articles.
All the links are, of course, in the podcast notes. Thank you so much again. And I look forward to the joint cake baking session soon.
Yeah, let's plan it.
Bye.
Enjoy. Thank you.